to another episode of Business Raw, and I can't be more excited today because I've got amazing guest Eric Rodriguez with us. I've met Eric like a few years back through one of the masterminds courses that I was doing, and hearing his story, he was the first one in my mind to come as a guest on my podcast list. So welcome, huge welcome, Eric.
Thank you. It's very nice to be here. And yes, I enjoyed sharing the class with you and hearing your insights. So when I heard this was forthcoming, I was very excited. And I look forward to the day when I can be a part of it. And here we are.
Yay!
It's great. Thank you.
So, for our listeners, right, for our audience, could you please give us a quick introduction to who you are, your background, what you engage right now, so we kind of get the feel?
Sure. I am a retired Air Force veteran, and I spent 22 years. And prior to that, grew up in Miami, Florida, and actually a combination of Miami, Florida, and Florida Keys. During my upbringing, I had very little physical ability for any type of sports, but I did find one thing I was really good at, and that was the martial arts. And I stuck with that since I was, I think, 7, 8 years old, and then continued on throughout my to today, all the way to today. And it, of course, has changed forms since I've changed forms, since I've gotten older and the body changes and you have to adjust how you do things. I don't like to get hit in the face anymore, but it's more about the non-physical aspects of that I've carried with me through my life. So that stayed with me, and of course, I joined the Air Force in my early 20s, and I've kind of taken some side routes in my career, and I went off when I didn't want to do cybersecurity anymore for a little while. I went and studied. I got a natural medicine degree because I was a survival instructor as well. I was a wilderness survival instructor, and then I would come back, and when things didn't go well, actually I got out in 2005. I started a career, and we'll get some of the challenges that came from that. But for the most part, there were some challenges that came during that time, and it started to shape who I am today. And today I'm an author of a book that I'm sure we'll get into at some point. And I did, because of what I went through, I was doing some seminars called Direct Intent Living, and to motivate and inspire people to get from where they are to where they want to be. I'm also a trainer for one of Jack Canfield's trainers for the Success Principles. So I did that because I wanted to align myself with someone who's already got a platform, and kind of I want to homogenize both my experience with his skill level and do something like this, so I can give to the public something to inspire them when things go dark in their life. So where I'm at right now, I still do these things, but I'm very much still do work some things during the day, and then I work things in the evening, and I'm involved in different venues here and there to speak and to provide service here and there. So let's see what the future brings.
Wow, sounds like you've got many fingers in many pies, as they say. And coming
Yes,
back
ma'am.
to cybersecurity, are you still in that field or you completely exited?
Yes. Yes, I became a contractor, and once it's at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and that's what I do during the day. I go to the base, or I work from home, and it provides me it gives me an analytical, it keeps an analytical baseline. It keeps me grounded in analytics. It keeps me grounded in the logics. It keeps me grounded on systemization. And then when you add that to the science of success, or any type that jumps off of that logic platform, how we would suppose logic to exist in, or we would expect logic to exist. And when you jump off that, you have something to ground yourself and say, wait a minute, what am I looking at, or what am I experiencing? And you have a different way of looking at and experiencing those types of serendipitous effects, or preternatural or supernatural effects that happen in our lives. And it's something that I loved about Bob Proctor and the course that we were in is that he was a very rational person, but it was seamless how he was a rational, very practical person, very pragmatic, and at the same time, he merged and homogenized very well in what we would call, some people call the woo-woo side of life, and the magic of, or the mystical side of where things start to happen in according to the way we think, speak, and act. And I'm sure we're going to dive into that.
Absolutely. So, talking about challenges, and you said things that life throws at you. I know that there was a moment in your life when you work for cybersecurity, you work all the hours on earth. It was time in front of computer, like sitting down work, and something has happened. Would you like to share that with us? What was that pivotal moment in your life?
That was there was something in me where I do have that side of me that has a very analytical. I love getting into the traceability of finding out what went wrong or how do we break this down um, systematically and get to the root of a problem, especially when you're dealing with security, when you're dealing with a cyber incident or cyber type of hardening, everything now cyber, anything now, everything's in the Internet of Things, everything's part of a network. So cyber's everywhere. But that was a very rational side. But what happened to me is that there was also an application, a constant application of thought that I was constantly beaconing out since I went through a very tough experience in 2008 that I've been beaconing out ever since. And I learned how to do that. That things started to change for me because of the way I looked at things. And Wayne Dyer, one of my favorite authors, he once stated very eloquently, when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at changes. And that is a fact because I started to become aware of things. So I took a venture. I had an experience that totally took me by surprise. I was actually writing a book on personal success. It was called Direct Intent Living. And I kept bouncing. I kept bouncing off that subject, and I couldn't finish it. I was working on it for years and years. I just couldn't get. Every time I wrote it, it was like I feel like someone else is already doing this. We're talking about this. I'm just regurgitating something somebody already does. And then all of a sudden, I got hit with an experience that totally took me into a whole other realm. Yet I wrote it in a course of 5.5 months. Bam! What took me, what I struggled with for years, I wrote that in just 5.5 months, which turned out to be the book. And so that solidified many things for me. It showed a different form of resiliency, took me from a physical to a spiritual resiliency, mental resiliency, and it also solidified the fact that this isn't just a vessel we live in. It's like we learned in the course. We're physical people, but we have certain experiences that kind of turn the page over to actually look at it from a different point of view. The perception changes where you realize your spiritual being is having a physical experience because everything, the way we think, the way we calibrate, the way we start the frequency of how we vibrate has an effect of the occurrences that happen in our life. And when they seem like they're negative, all that mental resilience, that spiritual resiliency keeps you that steadfastness to see it to the other side. Well, then you look back and say, I got it. So that solidifies the faith even more, and it strengthens your stance. So any other storm that comes in your life, it's just part of the process of growth. It's catabolic, but then at the same time, it's build and grow, build and grow, build and grow, build and grow. So it happens. It happens.
I love that. Build and grow. You can't just like grow, isn't it? You need to consolidate as well and build at the same time. You're talking about challenges and pivotal moments. Like I know in 2009, you weren't in really happy place.
No.
The life was testing you, I guess. So give us a bit of background, like what was happening for you in that moment.
Well, I had taken, as I said, I didn't want to be a one-trick pony, and I wanted to venture off into doing something a little bit more meaningful. When I was a survival instructor, I realized that plans had a serious effect on. There wasn't just mumbo jumbo. I knew plants had an effect on people, and I knew natural medicine had an effect on people. So I decided to go into study integrated medicine and get an advanced degree. And when I finished, I was already out of active duty. I had become a regular civilian, and I opened up my natural health clinic. And in 2006, then what happened? And it started great. I mean, it's great. I was speaking at different events, and I realized a couple of things. Well, let me not digress right now. Let me stay focused because this is important. What happened was that, of course, the recession hit, and people started cutting back on consumables, and the door appointments started getting less and less. But I was stuck on a 3-year lease, and I had to keep products on the shelves. And I started using my own credit because I ran out of credit, and I was going through a divorce. Things were just, I lost contact with my daughter because someone who I had next to me all the time now became an every other weekend type thing, and everything just started spiraling out of control. I stopped caring about the business, and I was ignorant of certain things. I was just wasn't responsible with money, and when I realized that I was homeless, I had no money to live anywhere. I had $116 for 6 weeks. I was Chapter 7 bankrupt. I had just filed for the bankruptcy. I was waiting for the court date. I was divorced, and I was sleeping in a supply room on the floor on a futon. So I had a little Brita water filtering system I used in the sink in the customers' bathrooms to drink water. I go to the library to get free movies and stuff to when my daughter would visit. And I said, we're just having a slumber party. We sleep on the floor. I do everything free. And I was like, my God, how did I get here? How did I get here? And more importantly, how do I get out? Because how do I become someone that she can admire? How can she look up to this? Is this the end product of all of Daddy's teachings, of everything I've read and everything I've done? I thought I was a professional, but I lost everything. And I had a very specialized degree that didn't have a lot of uh, didn't have a lot of possibilities in other areas. So it was very specialized. So at the time, people weren't hiring, and I had to get a security. I was working as a security officer, so I had to work a part-time security job, which became full-time. But that became the saving grace, because it was through there before there I had learnned about Bob Proctor, and actually no, it was during there that I learned about Bob Proctor through the movie The Secret, and I watched it,
Mm.
and not long after that, I started to dig into it. Two very good friends of mine introduced me to that, and I was in a job fair, and somebody told me, and I was in a job fair, and somebody was there from the military, from the Air National Guard. They were in uniform. And I was talking to them. I was like, I did 10 years of active duty. She goes, why don't you come back? I said, I don't know. And she says, no, if you come back, you can get this, you can do this, you can get that, you can get your career back. But that was after I had discovered one book, and that was this, The Science of Getting Rich, and which was the
Mm.
book that inspired the movie The Secret, which is the one book that Rhonda Byrne had read, and that we learned in our course. In our success course. So I started doing that, and all of a sudden, events like that started to happen. Opportunities started to show themselves. So what happened? Because I was already looking and intentional, and giving the intention of growth, the lines of possibilities that meet my certain condition, character, and abilities started to show up. And because I was hungry, and I was vibrating a certain frequency. I was vibrating the frequency of growth, gain, and success. I knew how to recognize it when I saw it. It gave me the awareness to see, there it is. That's where I need to go. And I would take the step, because it meets you halfway. It finds you, but you have to take the step toward it. You can't. It's not going to knock on your door and say, "Hey, here's the red carpet all the way through." No, 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 no. You have to do the work. So I started that way, but it was very hard. For
So
10 months, I was showering with a sponge over my head and into a bucket.
Wow. So would you say, like, number one, let's rewind a little bit, like
Yeah.
there was so much. I'm just like, I'm gobsmacked to know that you went through so much in very, like, sounds like quite short period of time, right?
Yeah,
Like losing your business, going through divorce, then losing
yeah,
your premises, going through
yeah.
bankruptcy, being homeless. Like there are a lot of events, one after another hitting you, and quite, dramatic events, quite big events. It's not like something, like become homeless. Like that's our security, right? That's needs number one, roof over your head. But then you said if you've got daughters, well, how old was your daughter at the time?
5. And but one thing her and I shared at the time, which we share to this day, is that she trusts her daddy, and she trusted me that somehow it was going to be okay. And it was tough, but we would sleep on the floor, and we had these silverfish, these certain bugs that would crawl on the carpet, and I'd feel them on me, and I would just, it was hard. I would dust them off, and then I'd just protect her, and somehow I would make it fun for her, and she trusted me, and thus trusted the moment that somehow Daddy was going to make it. Daddy was going. But we it was 10 hard months, but things started to change, and it hasn't stopped ever
So,
since.
like when you are in that moment when one
Yeah.
thing is hitting you after another, and then like you said, you as a father, right? You've got this figure of protection, figure of setting the example, and having your daughter sleeping on the floor. That must have been so tough. At the same time, going through bankruptcy and going through divorce. Like what? I guess like what kept you going in that moment? Made you, because you obviously, like you said in your story, you went and got a job as a security. So like even to that point, to get even to that point, I think it's like a enormous effort, right? Because you can easily start spiraling down, thinking, what is the point?
And I started to ask myself, how am I going to get through this? So this is where I tell people, nothing that you've learned, no training that you receive up to this point, don't negate it as a waste, because you never know when you're going to have to revert back to it later on. You're going to actually leverage that later on. When I was in that point, I sat myself and I thought, okay, I was a survival instructor, and I already have the discipline of I knew how to survive. If anything, I can go live in the woods. But of course, we don't live in a society where we can do that. But the principles are sound. For example, I started to apply the life principle, and which stands for LIFE. It's spelled LIFE, but L stands for logically assess your situation. When I was in a bad situation, I said, okay, here we go. What do I have? Logically assess the situation. What skills do I have? I started putting all my skills on the table. What do I have? I have this certification from the Air Force. I have this type of training. I have a degree, but it's not really specialized. I mean, I'm very general, but it is. I do have a degree, and I started putting everything on the table. How much money do I have? Do I have a car? What's my time factor? So I started to look at my situation and say, I still have food. I have food, water, shelter, and clothing. Okay, we're good. I got my necessities. Now, I inventory everything you have. That's when I put everything on the table. How much money do I have? How much certifications do I have? What can I leverage at this point? So I logically assessed the situation. I didn't emotionalize. I objectively laid it out on the table. Then I inventoried everything that I have, everything I'm worth. How marketable am I? What can I do? What can I leverage? My military training, my certifications, my communication skills, my cyber skills, all of that. I laid it on the table. Then F, formulate a plan. When you start getting busy, they say the idle mind is a demon's workshop. What you don't want to do is get into a point where you're idle in a crisis and just scroll Netflix or pass the time, because all you're doing is kicking the can, but you're not objectively engaging the situation. And when you get busy, moving towards the situation you're getting, I find that that situation moves towards you. And this is where the saying that says what you're seeking is seeking you. When you engage in seeking it, that's when things start to change. And I asked myself one question: how can I get this back? I think the universe hears that, because it was after that, after I formulated a plan and I applied the E, the enacted, put it to work, put feet on your face, put boots on the ground. That's when I was able to find the site. I leveraged my military training for a security job, which led me to the people that I met, that introduced me to the secret, that introduced me to the training, that introduced me to the book. That book introduced me to a new way of seeing things, and the new way of seeing things put me in connection with other people. The recruiter got back into the Air National Guard, leveraged my time, used that to. It was all of island hopping from position to position to opportunity to opportunity. But in each one, it was a gain. Each one was a gain. And because I had written it down, I had written down what I wanted, and just in very detailed format. I would look at it every morning and throughout the day. I had it memorized. So I would just, it would come to the screen of the mind, stream of the mind, stream of the mind, screen of the mind. And then opportunities would show themselves when you're ready and when it's the right time. You have to apply the patience, persistence, patience, and perseverance. Those are the 3 P's. You have to have the vision, and it's potentialized by persistence, perseverance, and patience. Because if you can't have the persistence to keep going, the perseverance to weather the storms that it takes of growing, of breaking down and growing, and the patience to wait for the right time for those opportunities to mature themselves in their time and when they're ready for you. And also when you're ready for it, because sometimes you don't get it because you're not mature yet. You're not mature to handle it. You're sometimes not going to get more money because you still don't know how to handle the money you're not gracious for what you have. You're not showing responsibility. So you have to go a little bit of hardship to value money, know what to do with it, then watch the money show up at that point.
I
That's
love
how.
that. And I can relate so much as well, like you said about 3 Ps, that maybe I had 1 or 2 of those Ps, but then the third one, and mix and match. And definitely the latest one I picked up is patience. For me, patience, because I want results
Yeah.
now, because like, I believe I'm fully capable of achieving X, Y, and Z, and they're not coming, and you get frustrated. But I also realized that perseverance and patience is definitely the key elements. And if you stuck at it, if you stick at it, it's gonna come. It's coming. You patience sometimes is much needed. It can't just
Yeah.
like happen. So I love that. But so your military training actually became very useful. Like you said, you just never know when your training will become useful, right? So can you please remind us again or summarize the abbreviation that you use? Was it L? Logical
Life. Just think about it as life.
life.
Logically assess your situation. So it's LIFE. Logically assess the situation. Inventory everything you have, all your skills, all your money, everything you can put on the table. This is what I have to work with. And then formulate a plan. Get busy. Get the whiteboard out. Get the erasable marker. Start to write things down. Get a notepad. Journal your days. Get engaged with your situation. Because when you get engaged with the situation, you're applying the one proverb that exists on the Oracle of Delphi. Even to this day, it says, "Know thyself." You start to really understand how you think, how you speak, how you act, and where your vulnerabilities and apertures are for bad things to come in. You have to really learn how to live in your skin. You can't be codependent on any situation to gauge how you're going to be or how you're going to feel, how you're going to act. You need to be that Eric Inc. or Julia Inc. Incorporated. You need to be that company, and that company has logistics, has communications, has meetings. You consider yourself your own corporation because everything, whether it's your children or everything that's around you, is dependent on what the outcome of your life. Everything, because you may not be dependent on them, but there's people that sure as heck are dependent on you. So And that is very important. But when you engage in that, my military training gave me a lot of, I knew what I can handle. I know how bad things can get and how I can handle. The life principle
Mm,
is was in a situation you're involved in a plane crash, or in a situation where you find yourself lost in the woods. People die. People most of the time people there's three reasons why people die in the woods or in a survival situation: dehydration, hypothermia or hypothermia, and but the one that people don't give a whole lot of stock to, they give up. They give up. They get under a tree and just hunker down and they give up. Don't give up. When you get busy, creativity, you'd be surprised how well the mind works and how well
mm,
possibilities, circumstances, and tools start to show up. And sometimes even in the condition where you think you just can't go anymore, something comes up over the ridge that says, "Hey, you're lost. You need help." That's how. Well, life is the same way. Just when you think you've given all you have, you'd be surprised with what lifeline gets thrown at you. But only when you're moving.
wow, love that. Love that. Here's the tip, the best tip from Air Force veteran that we can all use right in our lives. I absolutely love that. I'm definitely going to remember this live. And it's so simple to remember. And yeah, never give up. It's something actually I've learned through my childhood. When I was 5 years old, I had drowning experience. And I did give up. I thought that's it. I'm too tired. I can't go any longer. And I was going down. Luckily, my dad saved me. But from that moment on, I told myself, "How dare you give up on life? You better die by trying rather than just like, oh, that's it. I'm too tired now." What
Right.
is that? So yeah, never give up. Keep going. Yeah, perseverance, right? That's the key of life. You can't just stop.
Yeah.
And I know. So like you had this, lemons. I call them lemons. Been chucked at you, right? You navigated all that. You got yourself back on track. So you've secured a job. You start, like developing your finances. All of the things, but life didn't stop at that, right? There was like other lemons were coming at you. Share with us what's been happening then.
Sure. So after that, I noticed that my income ever since 2009 started to increase by an average of 10,000 a year, and it's still doing that, which is I'm very grateful to that. But I noticed that in 2000 and 2019, my neck gave out. It just gave out. I was in a meeting and I had noticed that I spent many years like this, like reading with my head down. And I had taken also a lot of falls in martial arts, a lot of hits. I've broken boards with my head, which is really stupid. Don't do it. I don't recommend it. But it was all through demonstrations, and I think something happened with my neck, and also constantly looking down. I think it weakened the ligaments in my neck, and I was in a meeting. Also, my neck just gave out. It just gave out, and my C1 my C1 and C2 shifted, and it just came off. I felt like my head was just going to fall off and roll off. And I had within a week, I had 2 strokes, and I was disabled. I couldn't eat. I couldn't walk. I couldn't, but I had to keep this a secret because I didn't know what was wrong. The doctors didn't know what was wrong. I went to neurologists, neurosurgeons, orthopedics, X-rays, MRIs. They couldn't see it. They couldn't see what was going on. They couldn't see where, and I felt bugs crawling on my face. I had the shakes. I couldn't. I was slobbering myself. So I figured, okay, over several months, and the brain fog. You feel like you can sleep 24 hours, and everything. And I can listen to Julia, but I feel like I'm little Marvin the Martian inside myself, like trying to tune in and figure out what you're saying, because I can't understand what you're saying. I'm running on one piston. I'm usually running on 8. Uh, I had no cognition. It was horrible. But I had to act. I had to push. I had to apply the third P in this. One of the P's of perseverance. I had to really push through it and say, look, by this time in 5 years, I'm gonna be completely looking back and I'll be totally cured from this. But how do I get through these 5 years? How do I find the how? And I started. This is where the past comes in. I say, if no doctor can help me, then I have to do this on my own. So I applied the same principle as I've done everything else. I put my goal down, an intention, and I started to read the books, and I started to leverage my training in physiology, anatomy, physiology, pathology, pathophysiology, all of that. I started putting it to work, and I started to create contractions in home to focus on my neck, and I started studying qigong, all these Chinese different aspects of the martial arts that I had negated in the past, like Tai Chi and all these other things. All that collectively got me to where I'm at today, where I'm completely cured with zero doctor intervention and surviving 2 strokes. Because what happened is that the neck shifted and it obstructed an artery and some nerves going into my brain, and that caused me to have a cervical stroke. And I survived 2 of them within a matter of a week and a half. And here I am, completely recovered, all by applying the same principle, just in applying those 3 P's. You have your vision, and apply the 3 P's. So, and at the same time, I was able to jump my pay grade 2 more times. I got 2 more jobs in the interim of my healing. And I wasn't wondering if I still don't know what I said. I must have said something that impressed them because I got the job. But, and then I even bought another home. I have 2 homes now. I have 3 locations now. And each one and all of that happened while this was going on. So you really have to pick up, understand who you are. If you can't understand who you are, then you can't drive the machine through the storm. You can't be the captain at the helm if you don't understand the mechanisms of your ship. And they really have a great mechanic. The greatest captain of a ship is the one that knows everything about the ship. The greatest person of success knows they can stand up on a TED Talk or in any situation and deliver a product saying that the people standing in the audience will say, that person knows who he is. He can be anywhere and he knows where he is, and he can be dropped and he'll apply the same principles. He or she will do the same thing. So, and this is, I'm a work in progress. I'm still doing this. I'm still working this. So, and it just so happened that when I wrote The Oppression, it was something that nobody expected to me write something about that topic in that genre. But that's where this led me to. The platform, it just happened to be that platform. It's not my exclusive platform, but that was the one that I did now. Am I going to do other books and other things? Of course I am. But that's the one I started with because it was time for that book at that time.
So let's dive into book because your book is quite, I guess, unique in some ways. So like you said, you consolidated all of your experiences, but it's not just a documentary type book, right? There is a story. So tell us a little bit more. How did you come up with the concept? What's in there? Yeah, I'm just curious to find out, and I obviously can't wait to read it.
Well, that again, this is where yeah, I heard some ringing in the background. I apologize. This is where it's important to understand that your life when you're dealing with this type of science, you're dealing with another reality. And I know people can get very fundamentally religious on this and say, no, it's not this or that. No, understand something. Have you ever had a situation where you think about something and all of a sudden the person next to you within seconds starts talking about it? Or you get a flash in your head and you get a flash in your head and you say something and the person next to you says, I was just going to say that. Or you start to get a person of the image of someone's name that you haven't heard from a long time. You get an email within 2 or 3 days of them, or a call. There's something outside of us that is in the consciousness realm that's in. And that's one of the things that I memorized from The Science of Getting Rich, there is a thinking stuff from which all things are made that in its original state permeates, penetrates the inner spaces of the universe. A thought held in this substance produces a thing that is imaged by the thought. Man can form things in his thoughts, and by impressing his thoughts upon formless substance can cause the thing he thinks about to be created. Over and over, I memorized this through the years, and
I
it
just
helped
about
me.
to say, one man who can quote that book is definitely you, Eric. I never met anyone who just like wrote that book. You probably can read it like a great audio recording of it without any preparation.
Yes, and it's a very bold book. It's a little book, but it's very bold. And, there is there is a lot in there in such a short minute of time. So many guarantees in that if you do what it tells you to do, it's going to work for you. So what happened is I started to write a I wanted to write a book on this on the science that I was using, just my form. And I would go to Barnes and Noble and I would see other books on the shelves, and I'd be everybody's coming up with stuff like this. How am I going to get it off the pavement? It's been belabored. It's a very saturated topic. And I'd be like, no, but that's their story. You need to tell yours. So I tried that. So I said, okay. Then what happened? I took a trip to Gatlinburg, and in that trip, I decided to go do a little bit of venturing, and into. It's not the book is a little different. The book is is a fictional book with based on non-fiction events. And something happened in Gatlinburg that when I got back home, some weird events started happening in my life that really challenged the rational side of me. And this wasn't the natural cybersecurity, and one of the books that stays very close to me is Meditations. Much a fan of Stoic philosophy. And it's a very grounded, very pragmatic science of way of looking at things. Yet, I started to have these weird supernatural events happen in my home. And this is the stuff that movies are made of. And an apparition, I saw an apparition, I saw things spinning on the table, I started to change, then I started, and believe it or not, I got scratched. I got scratched on the neck, I got scratched on the shoulder, these scratches started appearing on me. And that was a little bit concerning. It was very disconcerting, and this was like totally out of my circle of confidence. And so I had to look at my faith into the reality that I've been dealing with up to that point from a different point of view. I had to look at faith from a different level. This was now a spiritual matter. But it helped me because I leveraged that. It's like, now, if that's happening, then everything I've been suspecting up until this point is real. The spiritual realm is real. Will we operate as on the real? Because I'm looking at it. How did that move there by itself? How did that thing just appear there in front of me? What is that? At the beginning, I was having this analytical inspection of it all. But then it started taking a turn for the worse. And I was like, whoa. This is no longer interesting. This is no longer something I want to study. This is now affecting my home and my family, my son, my daughter. And when it stopped, then I had to go outside and get the Archdiocese of Cincinnati. I wasn't a Catholic at the time, but I grew up Catholic. But I knew the Catholics knew how to work this because I went to a pastor. He says, I don't know how to do this. You need to go to the Catholics for this. So I went to the Archdiocese. So it's a long story short, it became a huge mess. But when it was all said and done, and what they did work, it gave me validity of a lot of things. I go, look, if that works, one, there is a spiritual realm. Two, we interact with it. Three, our thoughts live in that realm. Our thoughts are things. Our thoughts are substance. Okay? Our faith is very important. What we give life to, we give energy to, and when we give faith to something, you believe it, and as you believe it, you see it, and that ties into what I've been doing before. I formed this image, just like I said that, the Science of Getting Rich formula. You can impress things in your thoughts, and by impressing your thought into a formless substance, you cause the thing you think about to be created. So when you believe it, when you see it, before it even happens, so the intentionality is so powerful, and the manifestation of it is going to happen. Maybe not in the same form always the way you saw it, but sometimes better, or in another form, but something happens nonetheless. So what happened was, when this was all over, I was thinking about all this stuff, and I watched a movie called The Pope's Exorcist with Russell Crowe on Netflix. And I got a little angry when I saw it. I was like, it doesn't happen like that. Real hauntings, real spooky stuff in a home doesn't happen that way. It happens. Organic fear is quiet. It's an eerie quiet that you can only experience. You can't really describe it, but there's a subtleness when your hair goes up in the back of your neck, and then the martial arts side of me, the military side, wants to fight it, but you realize this isn't about you can drop your fist because it's worthless here. This is about faith. It's about heart. It's about belief. So I saw that movie. I said they're out of bounds. This is not how it happens. Well, I had a conversation with my daughter because I said, I could write a better screenplay than that. And she goes, Dad, you need to write about that. That's what you need to write about. And I said, instead of writing that book you're writing, you need to write about this. And I went to Vegas on a trip. And Vegas really wasn't and isn't my forte. But I was in the hotel, and I was a little bored. And I sat down, and I started to write. And I started to look at different publishing companies on the internet, and sure enough, when I got on the plane and I sat down, and people were boarding, putting their bags on the sides and everything, and I put my tray table down and I started to work on the first chapter, I got a call, and it was a publishing company, and it found me,
How
and it
about that?
turns out to be the publishing company that. So
And did they know
again,
about you like, wanting to buy? Like, how did that came about? How did they?
I think in retrospect, I might have put my email or something like that, and maybe they harvested something like. But the timing, but that was a couple months back. No, that was about a couple of weeks back. The timing that I was writing the first chapter on the plane when they called me and wanted to hear about my idea of a book. I just so happened to be writing the first chapter. He just called in a really weird timing. But in my mind, I knew it was. And
Mm.
so I knew at that point that with everything, the way things were happening, there's serendipitous events like that happening. Because of my experience in the past, again, I've looked to the past to understand the present. Then I realized this is where I need to go. This is where I need to focus on right now. There may be other books, but I'm going to write this one first. And I'm going to write it in a form that focuses on resilience, focuses on belief, focuses on faith, focuses on family,
Mm.
focuses on unity, focuses on rationality, focuses on apologetics, focuses a little bit on rational theology, focuses on, and I leverage certain things because after that I got a degree in theology and I got a degree in cybersecurity. So I leverage all these different perceptions or lines of influences, and I put it all into one format to create a book that hopefully it might scare you because there's a couple of things there that are scary. There's a dream there that's really disconcerting, but it happened. And but life isn't peachy. Life is something that it's a constant. If you look at a tree grows, an oak tree grows, and it has a certain level of height. It's not going to grow to the clouds because it physically can't. But how high it goes depends on the amount of light it gets, the environment it gets, but also how much it can resist the life that it gets in. Why? What's his point? Is to create that acorn. The acorn falls to propagate more oak trees. It provides for life. And when it drops the acorn, you get the squirrels that pick it up and they bury it. And when they can't find it, it becomes under the tree. So everything has a purpose. How high the oak tree goes, how high can you grow? How well are you handling your environment? How well are you responding to your environment? How well are you responding to the challenges? Are you weathering it like the oak? Are you creating seeds to propagate life? Doesn't want you to exist in a vacuum. It wants you to become more of you. So people can not follow you, but follow what you're following. But they have to hear from you. That's why the word inspiration is word inspirited. It's rooted in the word inspirit, inspirato. It means from the spirit. If you have a story to tell, convey it. Because you can ignite someone's spirit. And when a person, that's a formula of creation. You have to be inspired to create. And everything that's created has to have a first cause. A first cause has to have an element, a moment of creation. And you can't be inspired to create if you're not motivated by something greater than yourself. And so
Love that. Love
that's the
that.
basic.
And from my experience working with small, medium-sized business owners, that kind of links back most of the cases why they started their own business.
Yeah.
Because having your own business, it is form of creation. You're creating products, services for customers, for
Sure.
greater world out there. And it usually starts with internal motivation. And let me tell you, in most cases, it's not just money. Obviously, money is an important factor in it, but it's not the money because the entrepreneurship is a hard game for sure. Some of the money that you can earn
Yeah.
from it, you can be easily earning just in a high-paid job and not having the stress and the hassle. All the courageous business owners out there, they definitely have got that internal motivator factor, like you said, and which then I can see the inspiration comes at creation. And what usually kills the business is when that inspiration and creation factor just dies. And like like listening to you back, you can track back to that motivation because I always say if your vision and your purpose bigger than you become unstoppable. There is nothing that will stop you, no matter how much like dead or sales not went up, whatever, like you still keep going, keep going, keep going. And your stories are amazing, just like underpinning the whole, I guess, theory and teachings. And I can't wait to read your book because I know you're very knowledgeable. You've done like umpteen amount of hours learning those teachings, not only learning, but digesting it through your life, through your experiences, teaching as well. This is the quickest way to absorb the learnings and always been true inspiration. Like whenever I talk to you, I just like feel myself inspired and definitely withdrawing the strength, like more than anything from today's conversation, I think perseverance and patience. And what was the third one you said, P?
Persistence, perseverance, and patience. Vision,
That's it.
potentialized by P to the third. P, perseverance, patience, persistence, perseverance, and patience. So it all depends what your situation requires. Patience is the one that's constant on all of them, but sometimes you need a little bit more persistence, sometimes a little bit more perseverance. There are two throttles, and the situation sometimes requires you to throttle one down more on the other. But the one that's constant always is patience. You have to see it through. Sometimes people they plant the seed and then it gets into the soil, but what happens is they don't wait for it to break ground. They give up. They stop watering it. They stop giving it sun. Sun is the spirit portion of it. Water is the maintenance factor. You stop watering and giving it sun, then you walked away when really that seed was just about to break soil. The patience is what sees it through. And so they say Rome wasn't built in a day. Yeah, but it was sacked in one. So you can easily derail yourself by changing your course of action, when you set an intention, write it, spend time creating it, put it on paper. I keep it in my wallet, and I always look. I don't need to look at it because I have a memory that I commit things to memory, and it's always flashing the screen of my mind, and I see things that are changing, and some things that are painful. Yes, they are, but I know that's when you look back. You look back at your goodie bag. You look back at your at the situations you've gone on, and you say, it's all according to plan. This package is all inclusive. The situation is all inclusive. It came with all the tools. You have all the tools. The situation is by an intelligent design. You're being guided. Stick with it. Weather the storm. push through. Believe in what you're going to do and move forward. Don't matter what. You don't have to understand how. You just have to head towards where you're going. The how will show itself by people, conditions, and circumstances. You'll recognize them along the way because your awareness level is not what it was. It's being developed because you're the person you want to be. You start thinking the person and you start acting as if. You start acting in the position or the person that you're going to be, and you start creating awareness factor. And that's how you start to recognize them. When you recognize them, you step into it. In other words, saying, come to me, I got you, but you have to come to me. It's just like a dad teaching a youngster to walk. Come to me, I got you. I'm not going to let you fall. And if you fall, I'll be here for you. But you have to come to me. Come.
Mm.
That's how I see it. I
So,
put things in metaphors and
so,
pictures.
for, so for those who may be now in a frozen mode, right? For those
Yep.
who may be holding their heads, thinking, "Oh my God, how I'm going to solve this? How I'm going to deal with this? This is too much. I'm in a pickle. I can't find a way out. This is too, like whatever that might be in that situation." What would you say to them? What is the first thing they should do?
That was where I would apply the life principle. Okay, crisis. Boom, crisis hit. Now life. Logically assess your situation. Put yourself in a situation where you start thinking, take the emotion out of it. Put a little cross on the E. Stop thinking emotionally. Start thinking objectively. What's really the problem? Take away all the fluff. Take away all the superfluous ingredients to the situation. Take all the emotional added weight that you put into the situation, and just look at it objectively. Sit down. Write it down. What's the situation? Completely. What's really? Take a 30,000-foot view, and then come back, and then take a 30, and then come back and look at it. Really narrow it down. What we're dealing with? Is it a crisis? Is it a divorce? Is it an accident? Is it a job loss? Whatever. Just write it down. Okay. Again, you're creating a relationship with yourself at the same time. Then inventory everything you have. Put everything on the table. Put everything out. All your skills, money, time, people people that know you. Okay. Things that you can leverage, and what connections. Bring out that old email list and start thinking of people that you've worked with in the past, that you've done business with in the past, that have certain skill levels that maybe you can collaborate with to get you something started again. There's immense opportunities when you start digging into your own internal closet and seeing what you actually have available. And then formulate a plan. See, when you're doing this, you're busy. You're busy. You're actuating your creative faculties. And then when you actuate creative faculties, you start getting that consciousness realm that we just talked about, that realm that we don't understand. We don't need to. We just need to know how to work. And start always the guiding principle behind everything. The carrot that you hold in front of you is always, it's for a reason higher than yourself. It can't be your wallet. It can't be about this only, because that becomes self-serving. It needs to be greater serving. It has to be conditions. I want to do it for my daughter. I need to do this. The motivation changes when it's not about you, when it's higher than you. And then when you formulate a plan, you enact it, and your confidence level. All confidence comes from competence. When you have a certain level of competency, when you look at this, it's like, okay, I feel good about this. Then you enact it. You fail, go back. If you run into a wall, go back. And if you run into a wall, then you add your 3 Ps: perseverance, persistence, and patience. That's what you add at the E level. That's where that takes on. You created your vision. You went through the life formula to create your vision. You have it here. Now apply your Ps and keep going. Keep going. Okay? Doesn't matter how long. You don't even have to figure it out. It'll figure itself out for you. Okay? This could be looked at in a theological standpoint or in a scientific standpoint. The thing is, some people call it lucky. Okay, yes, the way you look at it. I don't believe in luck, but I believe in certain things happening when you apply the right energy towards it. So that's my best advice I can give to them. Settle down. Okay, take your E out of it, and then get objective, and then get busy. Don't if you have a moment of crisis, you have to cry. If you have to feel bad. We're all human, right? If you're missing your son or your daughter in a divorce, I've been there. I understand what that feels like. But don't give it too much ground. Stay busy. Keep finding ways keep applying your piece to get back on your feet and get active, to get moving, to get objective. And once you do that, you start moving closer, and you realize if I would have stayed there, the crisis would have consumed me. But if I move towards it, the crisis gets conquered.
Mm. Love that. You've got choice whether the crisis will consume you or you will consume the crisis by applying your life principles. And like what really stood out for me, like it's just I had a profound, I guess, realization in everything you just shared is in all this, you're creating relationship with you because you're the one who knows you, right? You're the one who will be the worst critic, the worst, like there is no one else on earth worse a critic than yourself, right? Towards yourself.
Right.
So what type of relationship are you building with yourself, right? Are you promising yourself? Are you nurturing yourself? Are you being open and trusting with yourself? All this it starts with yourself. And I absolutely love that. Like when was the last time we looked at what relationship we are having with ourselves?
That's correct. There is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. And that only happens when you can't have a relationship with anybody else if you can't first relate with yourself. And because at that point you can rein in on all, because we're all fallible. No one's perfect. We've all hurt people. We've all done things in the past we regret, and we've all done things that we're not happy about. Welcome to the human world. The more relationship you create with yourself, and and that's all inclusive. That's the spiritual, mental, and physical side. I'm not talking about just cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm talking about some people, to me in my life, I believe prayer is important. I believe meditation is important. I believe physical exercise is important. I believe motivational reading is important. I carry these 3 books with me all the time. And that's the Think and Grow Rich, the leather-bound edition, which I love. The first book that started it all, The Science of Getting Rich, Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, and also have my Bible. So those are the books that that have a constancy in my life because they give me a certain perspective, a different aspect. Remember we talked about the throttle? Remember back in the 80s we used to have those radios with all the equalizers, and we used to equalize the sound according to how we wanted, more bass, more treble, more this, more that. Well, sometimes we need to adjust the sound of our life. And each of these provides a different sound level. They all help, and that helps me. Julia might have a different set of books. John might have a different set of books, but it doesn't. You have to have something that you go to, and also most importantly, a journal. A journal, right?
Mm.
This book was a journal. This book was never supposed to be published. It was a personal notebook to himself by arguably the most powerful person in the world at the time, Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor. It was a note. He was writing it in the most nasty conditions, and yet they were so profound. They were insights. And I believe every insight that inspires you is an inspired insight. If not, it wouldn't. If it speaks to your soul, it's an inspired saying. When you say something to somebody, you could be the only Bible that person ever reads, because what you say may really ignite that spirit. And that's why we have to be very judicious and responsible on the things we say, and also if we're in a position of influence, of leadership, of influence, whether at work or at home, personal development and knowing thyself is the best.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for such wisdom, so much, I guess, support as well, right? I'm sure all of the listeners can pick something out of our conversation today and your remarkable journey. I wish you success with the book as well. If someone would like to reach out to you, get in contact, get your book, what will be the best place?
Some links. You can go to. You can send me an email at theinkling73@gmail.com or theoppressionbook@gmail.com. Those you can reach me. There's a website that I provided on the forum. Sign up for the podcast. There's a Facebook page. There's a lot. But if someone wants to reach me, just reach me off the email. I would love to hear from you. And if I can be of service to anyone in any position of their life, again, I'm part of the human race. So that means I'm helping just like every.
Well, definitely. Like you said, if you can hold in a picture of your mind, it's going to happen. And to close our conversation, I always ask all of my guests a final question. What advice would you give younger version to yourself now?
Chance. Opportunities missed, and we can spend our money, we can waste our money, and you can work hard, you can make it back. When you waste your time, you never get it back. So treasure each moment that you have, nurture it, put as much stock into that minute that you have, because look, it just left. That second I just spoke, now it's gone behind me. And so put as much as of this life that you have. Think about this: if you were going to pass on, and you were asked one question, what did you do with the life given to you? I want to be able to answer that. And
Take a chance.
take the chances. It's going to be okay. Keep going.
Brilliant.
Keep going.
On that note, chances. Let's take our chances and keep going.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Eric.